Hi, everybody. How are you? It's been about 2 months since I've made a video. I hope everybody is well. So, I've been gone for a little bit. I have. But I really was excited to get back on here and make a video and kind of update everybody on life and kind of really talk about some things in the past 2 months that I've been doing. So, recently, I have made a TikTok, so I've been very busy on there. And on TikTok, I feel so much more heard, and I have a big following, and my content gets so much more attention. However, I have been checking my page, and I have seen that I've gained about 3 new subscribers. And I just wanted to say welcome and hello. I wanted to say that I really hope you enjoy this channel. It's really heavy on genealogy and my genealogy journey and other people's interest in genealogy. Um, One big topic I did want to talk about um, was the whole big thing about how 1% are big on DNA companies. As big DNA companies see 1% is very big, and how I find that very interesting. Not that I don't think it's a big percentage, because it wouldn't be enough blood if it wasn't there and showing up, but just the fact that they see that as, a lot in DNA companies. And just also wanted to talk about kind of the exchange of DNA that you get other from parents or just relatives. I see a lot of people, and they will, at least the DNA results, and they will be like, well, my mom is this much, but why am I not that much? And sometimes you just get different DNA from different parents. And also, I wanted to, as I'm talking about that, wanted to speak about the how features may come into play on why you may look a certain way. So, for example, let's say you are um, 84% African and the rest is European, and you are, okay, 84, you got 94, that's 10, like 15 or 16% European, right? But you may not look it. Well, let's say you got, like, I don't know, let's try to calculate that. You guys calculate that yourself. So like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's say you were 13% European and you got 5% from one parent, 8% from another parent, right? And like let's say the rest was trace regions, or you had like 0.5% native ancestry or lower or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, I'm 13% European, or I'm 84% African, but I look majority African. And I don't look, mixed with anything or whatever. Well, some genes show up in your DNA differently, and actually, with that spread, you got 5% from one parent, you got 8% from another. So, seeing as that is the case, it probably won't show up in your features very much, just because you didn't get a whole 13% from one parent. If you would have got a whole 13% from one parent, it would definitely show up in your features. Definitely. If you got like a whole 13% from one parent, and let's say you got a little bit more from another, but that 13% is going to definitely show from that one parent. If you got DNA 5% and then 8% from that, it's probably not going to show up too much in your features. It'll show up a little bit, but not as much. And sometimes it may be the reverse. You may have the 5% and 8% and it'll show up in your features, but most likely sometimes, depending on how the DNA was separated and how it got to you, depends on sometimes how you look. Um, so for, you could be, uh, let me see, 89% African and 5% native, and then the rest European. And you could look very much half native, half African, because your native gene may be like, if you get a full 5% native from a parent, that native gene is gonna be pretty dominant. It's gonna be pretty hard, as the African gene. If you're 75% European and you are the rest native, you could also look heavily native as well, as, you know, with a little bit of European in there, because I mean, you're 75% European, that's obviously going to show. But your native will also show heavy. So, you know, 75, and then I believe, what is it, like 15% more? So let's say you were 10% native, 5% European, or 5% European, 5% native, and 10% European, whatever, how we want to split that up. That would definitely somehow show. Now, if you, now with the 5% native, that would show. But if you got like, I don't know, 2% from one parent, 3% from another, it'll still show, but it'll show up just a little bit differently. And I'm trying to make myself make sense. That's why it took me so long to even make a video, because I was really trying to explain this in a way that made sense. Just like with the 10% European, like if you got 5% from one parent, 5% from another, it'll probably show, but not that much, you know. It just depends on how DNA is distributed. For example, if you are 55% something, 20 something percent something else, um, and 30% something else. Sorry, 5%, 50 something percent something else, 30 something percent something else, and 27% something else. Then, um, those will show up in you differently, but they'll definitely show up their big percentages. So, you know, sometimes your features depend on what DNA is dominant, and how much of that DNA you got from each parent. Sometimes it's, you may be like, well, I'm 3% Native American. Why doesn't it really show up in me? Or why don't I not look at as much as I should? Well, you may have got 1.7% from one parent and 1.7% from another, or whatever, and it may just be kind of cut up a little bit. It's not like one big chunk of that is just from one parent. So to almost end this video, because I still have a couple more things I want to talk about, depending on the chunks you get from a parent, depends on sometimes how you look. Sometimes DNA doesn't always come from our parents. It'll come from our parents, but sometimes it comes from their parents and their parents and their parents. That's why you see certain things in your DNA that you don't see in your parents, or you may see a higher percentage of something than you see in your parents and you. You know, for example, me having such a high percentage of Spanish and Portuguese, my mom having not as much, but yet I got it from her. But I'm pretty sure that higher percentage comes from her father, my grandfather, who is Hispanic. Um, my French and German being a lot higher than what I expected. My mom being a lower percentage, me being more than her. There's just a lot going on in that, you know, So, you know, those are just some things I wanted to point out. But I also wanted to also talk about, um, you know, going back to how African, you know, not everybody is mixed, and how a lot of African Americans are not mixed, and that slave blood is a thing that they like to, that a lot of African Americans like to use to account for that, which isn't true. But there's a difference between having some European blood and actually having, like, being European, like being of European ancestry. For example, like, I'm of European ancestry. But there's a difference between uh, having some European blood and actually, like, being of European ancestry. And I know that's hard to explain. It's like, well, if I have 8% European or 5% European, I'm of European ancestry. You have some European in you, but I wouldn't consider that you being European, like, or you know what I'm saying. I don't know how to explain it. Somebody will understand this video. Some people won't. It's the way the algorithm goes. Some are gonna not like it. Some are not gonna understand it, but some will. But yeah, I just think there's a difference in that. Same with, you know, you have European blood in you, yeah. But to be able to say I'm European, I don't know, because I'm trying not to use the whole blood quantum thing, and I know I'm going terribly wrong with that. I just don't know how to explain certain things. But through time, I will get very much better at that. But again, I'm gonna stick to what I'm saying. Is there's a difference between having some European in you and actually being of European ancestry. There's a difference between being of some Native ancestry and actually being Native American. And what I mean by that is, um, I don't know how I mean by that, because then I feel like I'm using blood quantum again, and I'm wrong for that, and that's a white supremacist way of even doing things. Um, and I do also want to talk about how um, the blood quantum is very, 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 very problematic, and it is not. It should not be used to test somebody's indigeneity at all. But I do also feel like there should be boundaries too with indigenous blood, just like there should be with African blood and any other type of blood. Um, but I just feel like there should be a different approach to it than blood quantum itself that was created by the colonizers. So yeah, I think that's a better way of explaining myself on that. Um, yeah, I did want to kind of go into this term I kind of created called Afro-European, as we also go by Afro-Indigenous because I'm Afro-Indigenous and Afro-European. But yeah, so yeah, yeah. Anyways, guys, it was very good to do this again. Very good to be able to have this video up and going. I'll try not to be gone for so long again because there is more content that I want to put out. But yeah, but you guys have a great day. It's nighttime right now. So you guys have a great night. Behave yourselves, guys. My genealogy queens, it was so good speaking to you again. Bye.